Acting President, well, I am very happy to stand and speak against this motion, and I'm glad that we had a good-sized audience to sit here and listen to this and get a very good understanding that the Liberals have not changed in 2.5 decades when it comes to action on climate change. Mr Davis stood over there and talked about ideology, ideology, ideology. We know where the ideology is absolutely fixed. It is fixed to the far right of your party. It is fixed. I'm going to come to the topic, but I want to start with principles. I want to start with principles and values. That is where I'm going to start. Last year, temperatures around the world were up by 1.5 degrees. We are heading to that becoming the new average, and then we're heading to 2 degrees. Now, we don't hear you lot talk about that because you're ideologically opposed to dealing with the science. We are no longer talking about future generations. We are talking about generations right now. We are talking about weather events that come through and smash our farmers. Our consumers go to the supermarket and they are paying for that with their groceries when they go to the supermarket. We know that insurance bills are rising because of these weather events. Insurers are having to raise the costs, and it is Victorians, it is Australians, it's people all around the world in these events that are suffering. And what do you lot do when something like that happens? When freak winds come through, you blame renewables on the fact that power lines are snapped in half. You will seize any opportunity to muddy the water, and I will come to the politics a bit later on, but all you want to do is muddy the water on this debate, and I think everyone, I'll go into nuclear when we get down there a little bit, if we want to talk about energy policies and we want to see differing of opinion between a federal and a state party. We can't even get two of you on that side to agree what your energy policies are, let alone the feds and the state. Now, this side has been very, very clear for a very, very long time. We acknowledge the science of climate change and we will act on it. This state has had... What are you owing about? What? Climate change is the science, it is that we have to deal with, and we are getting on with doing it. We have had we've been fortunate to have abundant sources of energy being in coal and gas in this state, but we know we cannot go on using it, and with gas, we know that the volumes of gas simply aren't there. You are sitting over there talking about extracting more gas. Where are you going to get it from? Where are you going to get this gas from? We have we've surveyed the state, spent $40 million surveying the state, and the volumes of gas that we once had are no longer there. And you took the ideological comments you were making before, the comments you were making before about the fact that people are already being hit by these gas bans, that there's the boogeyman coming in and ripping gas plates out of people's house. It's all utter hyperbole. Let me just say that, because it is the planning of new residential homes that haven't even been impacted yet you're screaming, bloody murder about all these things that are happening. Basically, I think every point you touched on in your contribution, Mr Davis, was just this sort of wound up, words that I can't use in here. I can't use. But so consumers in this state, we are getting out in front and protecting consumers, because as those gas supply dwindles, and we know if we need, if we're talking 180 petajoules or something per annum that we need, and our supplies are diminishing as our wells, particularly those off Gippsland, are diminishing and the wells have to close, then we need to get on the front foot to ensure that we don't have, whether it's Victorian households or industry, needlessly paying huge amounts of money for gas when there is the opportunity there to electrify. We've had a solid policy and delivery of renewable energy projects. We are now at 40% of the grid is coming from renewable electricity, and in just 11 years that will be 95%. Now, we acknowledge there will be a need for peaking from gas, and there will be need for industry to use gas. And that is why it's important. That is why it's important that we conserve what we have for where it's needed. Unlike those opposite who want to bury their head in the sand, show that conservative brand of politics where you don't get on and face up to challenges or issues that come. You just wish things would be the same forever. You just look in the rear-view mirror rather than looking through the windscreen. And that is all you ever do on that side. So we acknowledge the problem. We see there are solutions. We see there are solutions. And Mr Davis is talking about only 5% of heat pumps being made in this country. That is why we're getting on. If you want to talk about federal politics, making things in Australia, supporting industry, supporting massive new industries that are going to support this state and this nation to move to renewables, to move to net zero. That is what we are laying out. And we're seeing all around the world the massive investment, whether it's America, whether it's Europe, the IRA, whether all these different policies that are being put in place, and seeing massive industries stimulated. China, electric vehicles, 50% of their vehicle market. Of course, you know, Mr Morrison and his spin team told everyone it would be the end of the Aussie weekend. The tradies I talk to, if they get to have 80, 90 kilowatts in the back of their ute and charge all their batteries on it, pull up at a campsite, you don't need a powered site, you just pull up and you're there, you're self-sufficient. You don't need to lug generators around, you don't need to do all this. I mean, SES units are using battery-operated jaws of life. Electric is where things are going. So rather than stick the head in the sand, let's have a look at where we are going, prepare for it, and ensure that we don't have consumers paying far, far more than what is needed down the track unnecessarily. This sort of dream Mr Davis has about the fact that there's this abundance of gas being denied from being accessed is just absolutely bizarre. So I think what the people of Victoria want is they want the Liberals and they want the Nationals to come clean on what their energy policy is. I know there's been an abundance of policies over the last 20 years. You could probably write a kid's book, The Magical Journey of the Coalition Energy Policies, changing every 6 to 12 months. Is it fracking? Do you want to go in and rip up farms? Do you want to go and rip up farms, poison the aquifers to get the gas out? Is that your plan? Is it nuclear? Do we want to be burying that nuclear waste on farms? Do we want to be risking our pristine farmland to having nuclear reactors? I follow the energy space quite clearly, but I'm losing track of where you all are, where your feds are, where the Nats are, where the Libs are. I can't keep up. Between small modular nuclear reactors that you used to think existed and were great, and then realised, oh no, small modular nuclear reactors don't exist anywhere in the world. Oh, maybe we actually have to have something that's real and substantial. And now it's large-scale nuclear reactors. It's taken probably 18 months just to try and land what your position is on nuclear. How on earth do you think you're actually going to build nuclear reactors if your own parties can't agree on what it is? And what are the state Liberals going to do? Are you going to regulate for nuclear in this state? Tell the Victorian people what you want to do. Mr Davis, you stood there with Mr Pasuto last week and said there was no intention of it. The Nationals had their conference in Bendigo and we're led to believe that they're backing nuclear in all the way. The fault lines between the Liberals and the Nationals are running very, very deep, and the people of Victoria deserve to know where your fracking will go, where your nuclear reactors will go, and if you have a plan at all for energy in this state. Thank you.